If you're new in roofing sales or hiring new people in roofing sales, these are the three things that salespeople need to be doing every single day. And if you do these three things, you will have the highest, and I mean the absolute highest chance of not only success, but thriving in this business. So you, my friend, can smash your income goal and give every customer an amazing experience. And for the owners and managers who are tuning in, there's no greater reward, there's no greater feeling than bringing people on your team and watching them succeed, helping them change their lives in the same way that you did in this business. But as we know, the statistics don't lie. About 66%, that's 2 out of 3, fail. They quit or get fired in their very first year. That means that only 1 out of 3 will actually make it. Now, there's 2 reasons that people fail, and I want to get this out of the way before we jump in and give you those 3 things that you can be doing. Now, those reasons that people fail. Number 1, they're not prepared tactically. They don't know what to say or do. You're in the right place tuning into this content. You'll find, I believe, 1,000 videos or so here just on YouTube. Then you want to take it one step further, jump into my free training center right now. You'll find even more content in there and exclusive content that you're not going to find here on YouTube. If you want to go one step further, you grab my sales training system, the same one being used by many thousands. So all of that's there, which leads me to the second reason that people fail, is they're not prepared mentally or emotionally for the battlefield that is roofing sales. They're not prepared to deal with their inner demons, to muster up the courage to, after a full day of knocking and getting rejected and having homeowners call you incredibly cruel things, to then go back home and then say, I'm gonna go to work today, when you want nothing more than to go to the pub and drink beer. And then you drive to that neighborhood and you have to muster up the courage to get out of the door, have another day of full rejection because you haven't figured it out yet, while you're comparing yourself because this guy has an 80 square tile roof in some monster neighborhood. You can't even get your very first sale or get any traction, and you start wondering, am I even in the right industry? Is this for me? Is this real? Your family's chatter's coming in. You took a commission-only job that said you could do all this with no sales experience, no roofing experience, and that starts to poison you. The seed of doubt has been planted, and then you quit. Which is, by the way, why I wrote my book, The Roofing Sales Survival Guide, Beat the Odds, Overcome Yourself and Win Big, which will share this story with you and help you navigate this landscape so you can survive and thrive. Grab your copy right now on Amazon, Kindle, or Audible, and you'll see for yourself why it became a #1 bestseller like that, why it is still maintaining the #1 new release category, and why companies all across America are literally making this required reading for every sales rep. So let's begin, because again, my mission is to help you smash your income goal, give every customer an amazing experience. And in order to do that, you want to do these 3 things each and every day. Let's jump in. Groundwork is laid. We know why people fail. You, my friend, I believe in. You, I know, can be one of the 3, 1 in 3 that will make it by doing this. So, brings me to number 1. We talked about football, 10 practices for 1 game day. Tip number 1 is to do role play. Now, I want to dive into role play in a little bit before we get to tip 2 and 3. Role play, I used to be so embarrassed about. I felt like I was acting. I felt uncomfortable. I'm like, hey, well, that's not how I do it in the real world. I would do it differently. It's odd in the office. And it finally, when I was a sales manager, got over my own fears. And at this point, our sales room was, we called it the war room. And at peak, I had about 30 sales reps. And on the 3 walls, we had desks everywhere. One little gap, my office had a door that entered into the war room. So sales rep would be here, and I'd be behind the door. We'd start doing role play. And I realized going through this process and getting out of my own way was the best way for me to elevate my team. It also helped me become far better in sales. Because if you're uncomfortable in the role play scenario, you're gonna be uncomfortable in the home. And someone that tells you otherwise is lying through their teeth. They're somewhat comfortable in the home. But when you practice in the office, it's not high stakes. And the reality is there's a lot at stake, because if you show up and just think that you're going to figure it out, well, guess what? If you don't get a deal, you're going home empty-handed, which means you're not providing for your loved ones. You're making no money. So how you perform on game day, your livelihood depends on it. Are you going out on the hunt and you burn all that energy? Or in our example, you're driving out to that neighborhood, burning through gas, wasting your own money, wasting your time, and coming back empty-handed, or are you leaving with a deal? So how we practice will change how we perform on game day. And this is so important to get not only the repetitions in, but to get comfortable, okay? Which is gonna bring me to, I'll be touching on this comfort thing in just a little bit. But first, let's talk just statistics. If you sell 100 roofs in a year, which is it's a good number, by the way. If you sell 100 roofs, you're doing incredible, and you're making really, really good money. So if you sell 100 roofs in a year, and you get this one objection at the end of the appointment that says, hey, thanks for coming out. We'll call you in a few days if we're interested. If you don't know how to overcome that one, you say, okay, great, thank you, here's my card, and you leave. But if you learn how to practice that, you could do 10 repetitions per day. You do that for 21 days. You have 210 repetitions, which is virtually the equivalent of 2 years experience in just 21 days by doing some practice, which would otherwise take you 2 full years of rejection and losing sales, okay? It is so important to get these repetitions in. And if you don't have someone to do role play with, grab a camera, film yourself. I do this over and over again. I watch my own videos. I try to get all my videos in one take. So if I mess up, which I did today earlier filming some videos, and I got the perfect take, and then I bobbled at the end, I'm like, that's not good enough. So I go again. And when people ask me, Adam, how did you learn to speak so smoothly, communicate well? Guess what? Practice. I have 1,000 videos published, which means I've shot about probably near 10,000 total videos when you count how many are filmed and scrapped, filmed and refilmed, filmed and never used. I have the repetitions in. The same thing with door knocking. I can get up in front of a group of 1,000 people and be put on the spot, role play, thrown any objection. And the only reason that I can get through them is because of practice. So if every single day you do role play, it will make everything muscle memory because new neurons fire through practice, okay? So do role play every single day. Isolate it. You focus on your role play at the door, your objections, and your presentations. And remember, quality practice is what matters. Stay sharp, stay focused, and don't go too far, too deep. Just focus on the essentials. What you need to do when you start your pitch at the door. What you need to do to begin overcoming an objection. All right, so that's number 1 is role play. Number 2, you gotta be out getting in front of people and knocking doors. One of the scariest things for sales reps when they get going is the initial approach to a door. Okay, or showing up at a stranger's house. That approach, you're walking up, I don't know what to say, my wheels are spinning, I'm getting nervous. And this causes analysis paralysis, like a deer in the headlights, cat gets our tongue, and we simply don't know what to say. But once we practice doing role play, we will then breed confidence. So there's a saying which I love, competence breeds confidence. The only way to get competent is by having repetitions and practice. Therefore, role play creates competency, which creates confidence, okay? The reason that we need to be out knocking and doing the work every day is because naturally we'll be afraid. We will have questions. You will have questions in your mind. Something like, Adam, I want to be selling, but I don't have enough product knowledge. I don't know how the process works. And all these little narratives in your head are going to tell you you can't do it yet when you truly can. By the way, my very first sale that I ever made in the business, I didn't know what plastic caps were. In fact, my crew asked me to go get plastic caps. So I went to the supply house and said, hey, did you guys have plastic caps? And I got laughed at, and I figured out what happened later because I didn't understand that plastic caps, there was an accent language barrier, it was plastic caps. Didn't even know what they were, and I ordered 40 boxes on my very first job, which by the way, if you're new, I didn't need 40. All right, I needed actually 2. It was a commercial project, 90 square 3-tab that I sold. And by the way, this is way back when. It was a 3-tab roof that I got approved. Okay, we have to face our fears. Back to this second tip, you have to be out knocking doors and doing the work. Why? Because it will be scary. And the things that will make things be less scary is through practice in facing that fear each and every day. Tip number 3 of what you and or your new hire needs to be doing every day is what I call an after action report. I did another video on this topic about why you don't need a mentor. You should just be your own. I'm going to put a link to that up here. The reason I say that is when you learn to coach yourself, what happens is this. In sales appointments, we get tunnel vision. And a sales rep will go in the house, his or her heart rate is racing. They're stuck, they're talking from way up here on their chest, and then you're like, hey, so what went well, what didn't? They're like, I have no idea, because they're so in the moment. And if you've been in sales for a little bit, you've probably experienced one of these moments of tunnel vision, and we lose awareness. And the skill set that we need to develop in sales is self-awareness. So if I'm in the home, I can get really absorbed in what he or she is saying and how our exchange is happening. But when I start to look at myself as if, like, imagine there's a movie being filmed about me and I'm looking at it through the lens of the camera. And when I can have that third-party level of awareness, I can now begin to coach myself. So as I'm speaking, I'll be like, oh, I messed that up a little bit. And then in practice, I look back and I ask myself these 2 questions. What did I do well? There's always something, and we have to start there to reinforce what we did well. And I'm going to ask myself, what did I do well? All right, well, I showed up, I faced my fear. That can be enough. And exhaust the list as much as you can. And then you can ask, well, what can I do better next time? I realized that my body language wasn't quite on point. I was really fidgety. I didn't make eye contact. I lost my train of thought and I didn't know what to say. Okay, great. And then now we can make a plan. So if I combine these three things, where every day I'm doing role play and I'm practicing, every single day I'm knocking doors and or getting in front of homeowners if your company is setting leads for you, you're facing those fears, and then you're coaching yourself after every day, doing an after action report. What did I do well? What can I do different? And how can I take that thing that I could do different and better and turn it into a plan? And by doing this, you will maintain high repetitions, more than the seasoned veterans. You're gonna overcome your fear, be wildly confident, and you could be outselling even the top producers. I've watched it happen. And Jessica, by the way, who was using our system, she said that her new hires were giving her seasoned veterans, as she put it, a run for their money because they had the repetitions, because they had the confidence, and because they learned to coach themselves through it. And you have that power to do that for yourself. All right, listen. Thanks for joining me in today's video. Whoa, don't leave yet because I got a little bit more for you. I'm going to direct you to the next steps, okay? So next step number 1 is, if you haven't watched this video, I'm going to put a link at the very end of how to be your own coach, how to mentor yourself to go into a deep dive into this report, okay? So that link will be at the end. If you're someone that, whether it's for yourself or for your team, and you want to get a sales system to help, I provide a role play training to break down these scenarios and teach you role play in a really comfortable, fun way that actually builds people up. It's not an ego challenge to beat people down. Plus, give every sales rep the steps he or she needs to succeed. There's a link in the description, or you can text demo to 303-222-7133. And the last step for you, I have a free training center. There's no catch. Get inside and jump right into a playlist that says, if you're new in roofing sales, start here. I think you're really going to love it. We'll see you on the next one.